right, in the live stream?
No.
Okay. So you want me to just cover the agenda verbally?
Yeah.
Now you're live.
Good evening. Welcome, fellow DFLers. This is the Ward 4 Minneapolis DFL Meet the Candidates Forum, and we're very pleased to have everyone attending tonight. Before we get started with our candidates for Ward 4 City Council member, I'm Jeff Strand, Chair of the 5th Congressional District and Ward 4 Representative and Co-Chair. And we will hear in a few seconds from Brianna Rose Lee, who's the Vice Chair of the Minneapolis DFL. Technical difficulties prevented Minneapolis DFL Chair Devin Hogan from virtually participating tonight. But I'd like to turn the mic over to Peggy Clark, the co-chair of Ward 4 DFL committee, and Peggy will review the agenda and our ground rules.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Welcome to our first attempt at one of these forums. So let's hope it goes well. We'll start off with a statement from the Minneapolis DFL to welcome everybody and explain where we're at in this virtual process. And then at about 7:10 or whenever that finishes up, we'll give our candidate introductions. They are allowed up to 5 minutes each to present themselves and their agenda and their thoughts to you. And they may have multiple means by doing presentations. They may have videos, they may have other speakers helping them. So it could be a variety of things. When we're finished with the candidate introductions, we will then move to our Q&A process. We have two moderators today, Brianna, who is the vice chair of the Minneapolis DFL, and Joel Rainville, another person from our Ward 4 arena that will review questions that are being submitted from audience members. Those questions we would invite you at this point in time, if you're live streaming, to submit your questions through your live streaming platform, whether it be Facebook or Twitter. They will monitor the questions that are coming in and select questions from those in the 5 areas that we identified as those of highest interest. Those areas are public safety, housing, transportation, Upper Harbor Terminal, and climate action. And then the candidates, after we pose the question, each will have 1 minute to respond. The order of the candidates we predetermined in random order, and we will continue that random order throughout the opening statements and then the questions. Once we're done with the question and answer, we'll remind you about, we'd love to have you help the financial endeavor that this process takes by passing the hat and donating to Secure Act Blue. Then we will, then we'll have 3 minutes up to 3 minutes each for the candidates to do closing statements. Once we're done with the closing statements, we do have a compilation of the citywide candidates that was prepared today. It's about 20 minutes long. So we'll let that video run whenever we're done with our ward business, and you are free to go at any point in time there. So thanks again. We appreciate you coming. We hope you enjoy this evening.
And hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Ward 4 Meet the Candidate Forum. My name is Brianna Rose Lee, and I am the Vice Chair for the Minneapolis DFL. We just wanted to mention how important the endorsement process is for the DFL. This is really the time for all of us to come together as DFLers, as Democrats, to endorse a candidate and to find the person that we think is going to best represent our ward and best represent us as Democrats moving forward into the general election in November. So just think about tonight as a really great time for us to bounce ideas off of each other. This is all about unity, and this is about us coming together. I know right now it is definitely still a race. We have 3 candidates that are going to be running for our city council seat in Ward 4. But we just wanted to talk about how important this endorsement process is. We still have 4 more days for you to register and sign up to be a delegate to be part of this entire process. So please, please, please sign up if you haven't already. It's going to be on the Minneapolis DFL website. And also, 4 days left. You'll be receiving information either through the mail, or you'll be able to do it online, or you can do it on the phone or through text. So we do have a lot of options. We want to make sure that this is accessible as possible for everybody. And so please make sure to sign up if you haven't yet. And I will turn this back over to our ward representative chair, Jeff Strand.
Very good. Thank you, Vice Chair. So just a reminder for participants that I'm a paper, I can't show my paper, but Minneapolis Ward 4 Precinct 1, where I live, I have registered and specified my sub-caucus preferences. And then unfortunately, this postcard won't show very well, but I did get a postcard confirmation from the Minneapolis DFL. And so my husband and I are good to go. And I'd like all of you to be good to go as well. Go online and register for becoming a precinct caucus virtual delegate. So with that, I think we're going to move over with co-chair Peggy. We will start. Should we review the ground rules?
There.
Peggy,
Okay.
the ground rules for our comments.
Okay, so we had agreed in our pre-meetings to have certain ground rules, and they involve making sure that we're respectful of everyone that's a candidate and that we treat them with respect and their ideas with respect. During the Q&A period, whenever other people are speaking, there should be no over talking. So allow the person to put through their thoughts and finish speaking. There also will be no rebuttal. So if it's your turn to answer a question, your question should be your response and your response alone, not attacking another candidate or name calling or referring to some identifiable way to the other candidates that are involved in this process. So, okay, so that's pretty much it. You're going to get 1 minute when we get to that section to respond. We're timekeeping on that. And if you go too much over the time, we'll be able to cut your mic so that you can no longer continue. All right. That said,
Thanks,
I think.
Thanks, co-chair.
Okay. Yep.
So we're going to go to the opening 5-minute statements that candidates can use technologies or means that they choose. So we just have to make sure that Conrad, our technical administrator, is going to, I think we're going to hear from the Minnesota DFL chair as well about ranked choice voting.
Yep, just let me know when you want to do that.
Okay, Conrad, let's cue that up. And then after that, we'll go to the first 5-minute opening statement.
Just a second.
Hello, DFLers, and thank you so much for taking part in your local convention online. In light of the threat posed by COVID-19, the Minnesota DFL Party State Executive Committee made the decision to conduct the business of all of our conventions by an online balloting system. This preserves the power of grassroots activists like you to decide who our party supports and what our party stands for, while simultaneously protecting the health and well-being of Minnesotans everywhere. We have so many tremendous candidates running for office all across Minnesota. And right now, you're about to vote on which of these candidates the DFL will endorse from your community. To help reach an endorsement, we will be using ranked choice voting, which is meant to help our endorsements most fairly and accurately reflect the will of the voters. You'll be asked to rank candidates in order of preference, so you should pick whoever you support most as your first choice. And as long as your candidate remains viable, your vote will stay with them. However, if your candidate is no longer a viable option, your vote will be moved to the candidate you rank second. We would encourage you to keep sharing your support down the ballot and rank all of the hardworking candidates. This is how we will reach a consensus amongst the delegates. In this time of uncertainty and increasing political division, it is important that we emerge from this process united by bestowing an endorsement. Now, as you vote today, remember that the DFL party is committed to electing members of underrepresented communities to positions both within the DFL party and in public office. Here at the Minnesota DFL party, it's not wealthy donors or special interests that decides who our party supports, it's you. Grassroots democracy is at the core of who we are as DFLers, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time to be part of this process and shape who we are as a party. Thanks for all that you do on behalf of our party. Thanks for all you do on behalf of the state of Minnesota. Thank you and happy voting.
Very good. So now we have candidates 5 minutes to present and use any format, speakers, or media they wish to use. And based on a order randomly selected, first candidate with 5 minutes is candidate Latricia Vita. And I think our closed captioning VETAW. So Conrad, do you have 5-minute timer? So we'll go with go to Latricia.
Are we just going to start?
Yes, let's start.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I want to thank the Minneapolis DFL and the Ward 4 committee for putting on this forum, and thank you to everyone who is spending their time with us tonight. My name is Latricia Vita. I live in Willard Hay with my husband, Ronald, and our fur baby, Bobby. I'm currently the vice president of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. You may have recently seen us in the news. Tonight, I'm here with you as a candidate for City Council in Ward 4 because I see this election as so important in determining the future of our city. I moved to the North Side when I was 11 or 12 years old. My mother brought me and my siblings here from low-income housing, the projects in Chicago, to Minneapolis in search of a better life. We found it, but it was not to say that it was that easy. When we got here, like many of our neighbors, we counted on food stamps and Section 8 to get us through. These programs were a much-needed lifeline. My mother taught me the value of hard work. I was the first person in my family to own a college degree. It wasn't a straight line from high school to college graduation. For one, I had to work my way through school with jobs like one I had on an assembly line at Dow Chemical making scrubbing bubbles. I worked in food service, everything from cashier to regional manager for companies like Culver's, all while serving as the foster care provider for my young niece and nephew. Respect for hard work isn't the only thing I got from my mom. Growing up, there wasn't a single election day that she didn't tell us how important it was to stand up and make your voice heard through the ballot box. She used to say that people die for our right to vote, for our right to determine our future. And looking back, I know just how true it must have been for her. It's that optimism that we, despite the challenges, the setbacks, despite the obstacles placed in our way, can not only find a better life, but create a better life for us and our neighbors that instilled my passion for politics. That's what I believe politics is about, creating a better future for all of us. And that's why I left my corporate job 17 years ago and moved into health advocacy, standing up for North Minneapolis residents when it comes to health disparities we face. I've worked with hundreds of Northside youth over the years, teaching these young people how to advocate for positive change through policy advocacy. In 2017, I decided it was time to step up and put myself out there as a candidate for public office. I ran for the park board at large, winning a seat in a long shot bid, but then again, I never expected anyone to pave my way. On the park board, I helped secure $5 million in funding for North Commons and $3 million for the 26th Avenue North Trail connection, and spearheaded the creation of the Walt Dietrich Innovation Fund, which fosters innovation recreation programs serving the Somali community, girls, and seniors. While I'm proud of the work I've done, I didn't come here tonight to talk about what's behind us, but instead what's in front of us, what we can do together. Minneapolis is at a tipping point, and I feel called to do more for our city. Our city, the city that provided me the opportunity for a better life so many years ago, has a great decision in front of it. We all know the problems: crime that hurts the livability of our neighborhoods, police brutality that's taken the lives of our friends and neighbors, a devastating legacy of inequity, not created, but only made all the worse by the effects of COVID. When our city is facing these problems, we know that our neighborhoods on the north side are feeling it the worst. So what do? I'll be the first person to tell you that I don't have all the answers, but I do know that it starts with one simple thing: leadership. And in my opinion, the question of leadership boils down to one simple idea: who do you trust? I'm asking for the trust of my neighbors. You can count on me to show up, to listen, even when I don't agree, to stand by my words, to treat everyone with respect, and to be a humble leader. Because I know this isn't about me. I'm not running for city council to make a stage for myself. I want to make it a platform for Northsiders. I'm a listener and a coalition builder by nature. I plan to work with the community instead of working to do things against the community. Tonight, we're going to have an opportunity to discuss competing visions for North Minneapolis and our city as a whole. I welcome that conversation, and I thank you all again for being here.
Thank you. We next have candidate Rebecca Thompson. So let's.
Am I good to go?
Give me about 15 seconds here. Okay, please begin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Becca, Becca Thompson. I live in the Victory neighborhood, and I want to thank you all for being here and welcome you to my living room. Being on Zoom makes it feel as though maybe you're here with me in my tiny house. And I suppose it's a good place to start as to why I'm running for city council. There's not an inch of this house that hasn't been touched by my hand in sanding, painting, staining, scraping. When I bought it 11 years ago, it was all I could afford. And I fought very hard to keep it after my divorce so that my son could have a neighborhood. That short idea of my house explains so much as to why I love Ward 4. I'm a single mom. My next door neighbors are out there in January helping me shovel all the time. Guys down the alley fix my car. It's not because they have to do these things. It's just because they're good people. And I know that good people live and work in Ward 4 and know that sometimes you just have to work a little hard for the simple things. The neighbors down 43rd Street wave to my son and me and chat with us as we walk to the parkway. I've been watching him grow, they say. My son is 12. So, like Mr. Rogers, I would like to say you are my neighbor and welcome to my home. Yet this is politics. And we sit here today because each of us wants to make a pitch as to why you should let us represent you in the city. That's the crux of it, isn't it? Likely many of you are here because you're longtime DFL, or you've been contacted by one of the other many people in this Zoom. We've been getting a number of emails all month with new data for this event, and even for a math teacher, it gets a little overwhelming. So what is it that really gathers us here? Is it posturing, preening? Is it that, do I trust you now that you need my vote moment? Is it what qualifies you to be here moment? I do not have the political experience of my opponents, but I definitely see that as a good thing. You know what I made up for in that time? Different things in life. And those different things are what inform me about our ward. I've done plays at the Warren when it still existed. And once it became hot comics and collectibles, I've been there almost every day with my son. I tweeted the whistle at Weber Pool starting in 1995. Boop, boop, walk please. And have run up and down Victory Memorial Drive thousands of times in pursuit of the fitness needed to complete a dozen or more marathons. I've also lived extensively in New York City and Los Angeles, which gives me space to say quite specifically why it is that we need to protect what makes Minneapolis awesome. I believe we can be Minnesota nice and Minnesota just and welcoming and still keep our tiny homes. I know I've worked very hard to keep mine. When my son spent his 12th birthday under curfew, helicopters wandering overhead, I realized quite deeply that for all the statements and all the noise and all the promises, the most vulnerable in our community were being deeply overlooked: children. Then the extended violence started from carjackings to Logan and Lowry activity. One of my students from PYC over north came in to report one day that that crash that killed 3 middle schoolers on Knox were all kids she knew. I asked her why no one reported the car stolen when it was common knowledge in the neighborhood. She said, if people talk, you're next, and I know too much. She wasn't talking about the police. That's the disconnect that I see between our neighborhood and its safety and those who try to speak for us. And that's why I'm running. Because what is leadership? I'm a white 40-something woman with lots of education. Despite my best efforts, I'm still gay. I'm a single mom. Those are my demographics, which make up me. I can't change my age or my skin color or anything else that makes up who I am any more than anyone else can. So how do I relate to those different from me? Do I dismiss them, turn a blind eye? What is leadership? I believe leadership is seeing the whole person, infusing yourself into situations maybe you don't at first understand and making decisions accordingly. Governance is creating and maintaining a space where safety and order are so that we can discover our gifts and watch them flourish. This great experiment doesn't do much better when the teeter-totter slips toward the other end. I believe leaders need to be transparent, open to being wrong and admit it, and be trustworthy. I'd like to think that I'm that. And if you need confirmation of what I say, just walk across the parkway with my son and me, because my parents live over there in Robbinsdale and you can ask them. Thanks.
Jeff, you're muted. Jeff.
I'm sorry. So Conrad, technical, we have a video to queue up. And so please let me know when,
Could you
when that
share
is
it
ready.
as a YouTube video? I have a ton of tabs and I don't know where it is right now.
Okay, just a second. Um, I shared the link for Ward 4 committee.
Okay, I got it. I'll put it up here soon.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for giving us a few seconds there to get the technical matters queued up. So we'll go to Philippe Cunningham. And we'll need sound. We will need sound.
My name is Drew.
Chloe McGuire Briggle.
My name is Jackie Mukibi.
Hey, Nate Pence.
Well, I mean, essentially he did something for the entire block. Basically, in back of us right here, this sewer, when it would rain, it would literally flood out into the middle of the street. So what I did is I reached out to Brother Philippe, letting him know what was going on. They came out, dealt with the issue. I've been in this community over 14 years now.
Last spring, during the initial unrest, he was out watching over at North Market or 44th and Penn. He was dropping off fire extinguishers, flashlights, all those different things, and helped coordinate that. And that really left an impression on me.
Philippe has been responsive to me in a couple different really tricky situations that we've had here. I actually just messaged Philippe on Facebook, and he called me within like 5 minutes and was able to help and tell me what to do in the situation. And afterwards, he followed up with me like an hour later, the next day.
I've been a Northside homeowner for 13 years. There's been a few times that I've had to reach out to him, but one of the biggest ones was when my car was stolen and taken to the impound, and then I, hung up with him, and then they were like, the manager came and was like, okay, we won't do anything with your vehicle will be safe. And I know that would have not happened because I was there for about 2 hours trying to figure something out, and that would not have happened unless like Philippe was responsive and very quick. I mean, I was very grateful, and I couldn't believe it.
Good evening, everyone. I also have a short speech to share. Good evening, everyone. Najong. My name is Philippe Cunningham, and I gratefully serve as your Ward 4 City Council member. Thank you to the Minneapolis DFL and the Ward 4 Committee for this event tonight. Ward 4 is one of the most diverse communities in our city. Diverse not only in race and ethnicity, but also income levels, political beliefs, and lived experiences. Regardless which zip code someone lives in or the differences we may have within our diversity, we all share the same hopes and vision. A community that is prosperous and peaceful, that all of our neighbors can enjoy that prosperity and peace, and that it lasts for generations to come. Despite this shared goal, we remain up against establishment status quo politicians who continue to oversee investment into the disparities we struggle with every day. They have left the North Side behind in hope we wouldn't notice. But we can and will overcome these barriers that have held our community back for generations. We can and will build a Ward 4 that works for everyone. We can do this by working together to increase access to starting and sustaining businesses in our community and to home ownership opportunities. We can do this by building out a connected transit system that catalyzes community development and connects our neighborhoods with one another and the rest of the city. We can do this by transforming our public safety systems to be responsive to the diverse needs of our community and keep us all safe. I have been tirelessly leading this work on behalf of and fighting for our community for the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years, I have led work that has resulted in over $2 million being invested in Northsider-owned businesses right here in Ward 4, with 4 more major Northsider-led projects coming down the pike. This is unprecedented and a direct result of my leadership and work. Thousands of guns have been taken off the streets, and over 500 of the most active group and gang members have gotten out of the life because of work that I led with the Office of Violence Prevention. We have 11 major infrastructure projects ranging from rebuilding roads to building new transit lines, either underway at this very moment in our community or in the planning processes. We have built relationships with Hmong community leaders like the Hmong 18 Council and invested in addressing the specific needs of the Hmong community, like having a Southeast Asian community navigator at the city and designating Lowry Avenue as a cultural district for more resources to be invested in the Southeast Asian business owners along that corridor. This is all unprecedented. Ward 4 residents also have had unmatched levels of access to their council member, with me regularly hosting community meetings, weekly open office hours, and annual State of the Fourth Ward and joining community-led meetings. Together, we have made unprecedented progress in Ward 4. 5 minutes isn't nearly enough time for me to share all of the work I have accomplished for us in my first term, so please check out our website at cunninghammpls.org to learn more. Let's unite around necessary changes and lean into this momentum towards our shared vision of a prosperous and peaceful Ward 4. Thank you.
Okay, fine, thank you. And thank you, candidates. And next we'll go to Co-Chair Peggy, and we're going to ask, first, this entire process, the Minneapolis DFL is sending out thousands of postcards and running events like this online and getting all the technical aspects of the virtual caucus convention. So to the extent that you can afford, we would ask that we're passing the virtual hat now, and we'd ask that you go to secureactblue.com. So it's secure.actblue.com/donate/Minneapolis DFL. And
Jeff, minneapolisdfl.org/donate works really well
okay.
too.
Okay, fabulous. So that said, we're going to go to the moderated question and answer. So I will defer to Co-Chair Peggy. Would you like to pose the first question? And then we'll have 1 minute responses, and we will have the computerized timer for this part of our event. Peggy, do you want to unmute?
Okay. Did we get a question from our moderators? Or are we starting with our default questions?
We can start with our questions that we planned, and we have one so far. So if you're listening, please definitely jump in and send some questions in on Facebook or Twitter. But we can start with ours first.
Okay. Go for it, Brianna.
Oh, I don't have that list.
Just a minute then. I have to pull it up. I saved it, but not in a smart place. Well, maybe Joel has his list handy.
Okay, well, we could just start with the one that I did get from Facebook,
Okay.
and then we can jump into the others. So
Okay.
the question we have on Facebook is kind of regarding the ranked choice voting. So this person would like to know how you will use the ranked choice voting as part of your endorsement campaign strategy. So how you would choose to, or how you will be someone's second choice or instead of the third. So they were kind of just curious how that will change or affect your campaign strategy.
So 1 minute responses, and this will go to, the order will be Thompson, Cunningham, Vito.
Well, the simple thing is there are three of us, and barring other people joining in, it makes the only strategizing it shows to me is that there's not a lot of purpose to try to get out of the race without ranked choice. I mean, back in the day, of course, you just kind of like, well, I didn't get the endorsement, and on you go. So in that regard, I mean, I am beginning to have relationships with the other candidates running, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm number one. And we'll leave it at that for now.
So I'll just go ahead and jump in. One of the things that I really appreciate about ranked choice voting is that it really allows for us to have a more robust, meaningful conversation related to the work that's needed and happening within our community. It really is an opportunity to build bases across different perspectives, lived experiences. Folks don't have to make an either or choice. They can really be able to lean into what they believe, who they believe in, and really be able to make a choice that feels right for them. That dynamic allows for us to have a more robust conversation and really helps us to steer clear of the negative sort of campaigning that we see when folks are forced with an either or choice. So if other folks that I talk to already have a number one, there's still space for us to be able to talk, for me to be able to earn their number two. So that is how I will be incorporating that into my process overall. Thank you.
And Latricia?
Yes, I'll jump right in as well. So, I've ran a citywide campaign, and one of the things that was really to my advantage was that we have ranked choice voting. I embrace ranked choice voting. I think it's great for new candidates. Incumbents have a base because they've won the election before. And so I'm excited to talk to folks who aren't selecting me as number one. I'm encouraging them to select me as number two or even number three. I'm fine with either number as long as they select me and put me on the ballot, if I'm a candidate of their choice in any one of those ways, 1, 2, or 3. I'm also embracing it because it gives us the opportunity, to really connect with folks and explain to them what ranked choice voting is. A lot of people just think that these races are head to head. So I've been having some great conversations with folks in the ward about ranked choice voting and how it helps candidates who would not necessarily have a fighting chance on a head to head.
Okay, let's go for the next question on housing.
Public safety.
You want to do public safety? Okay. What is the?
Yeah, and this will be Cunningham, Vita, Thompson order.
Correct. What is the one step the city council can take to repair the relationship between the Minneapolis Police Department and city residents?
Thank you for this question. It's very tricky for us to be able to talk about the city council and police because of the fact that our current city charter requires or has complete authority of the police department over with the mayor. However, we do have the opportunity to really be able to build out systems of public safety that incorporate policing more collaboratively across other different kinds of public safety strategies like violence prevention, like community-based organizations and service providers. By us incorporating those sort of approaches together, the research shows very clearly that a collaborative approach produces better outcomes. The way that we increase police legitimacy is by improving policing outcomes. So that looks like not having a wide net approach, that looks like being able to have very targeted outcomes. And with that increase in legitimacy, that improves police community relations. Having police officers hand out hot dogs at a park is not actually the way that we achieve improved police community relations. It is by improving policing itself, and that's what we really need to be pushing for.
Can you repeat the question? You're muted, Peggy.
What is one step the city council can take to repair the relationship between the Minneapolis Police Department and city residents?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think the main thing is being honest with city residents. I want to focus on impactful and realistic policy goals. So much of what I'm hearing sounds like vague, hollow promises, because so much of what we can do as a city is restricted So again, I really want to focus on real goals, something we can do. I definitely think that will help relations for folks in the city. For example, what types of 911 calls require a police officer response, arbitration agreements that make it hard to fire problem officers, etc. You know, like, I fail to see how this charter amendment solves any of the very real problems we're facing in policing. And I think that we lose trust, you know, in the people of Minneapolis when we're not being honest with what is actually going to happen. We're not supporting our chief. I believe our chief deserves our support.
That's time.
Thank you.
Okay. This timer is a 2-minute timer, so
okay.
So I have to stop you at 1 minute. So okay, Ms. Thompson, you're next.
Yeah, I would say straight off that the first thing would be to say that they're going to fund the police and say why. And I think that supporting our first Black police chief could go a long way. And frankly, I'm not the expert in this. I do see the problems of what has happened since last summer, but it seems very clear to me that Chief Arredondo knows what he's doing, and I, from my background as a teacher, sometimes you feel hamstrung to be able to do what you're trained to do what you're good at doing, do what you know in your heart and in your gut is best for the people you serve. But when you're hemmed in by politicking, it can be really difficult. So before I would even think of this, I would ask to know, what does Chief Arredondo think is the right move, and give him that opportunity.
Very good.
Thank you.
I can probably do the housing. We have a housing question. This order will be Vita, Thompson, and Cunningham. And the housing question is, can you share with us one way the City Council can address housing affordability in Ward 4? And Latricia will be first.
I'm sorry, I'm having a problem unmuting. The question was, what is one way that, can you repeat it?
Yes. Can you share with us one way the City Council can address housing affordability in Ward 4?
Yes, so one way I think is that we could work to adopt a cooperative metro-wide approach to affordable housing and meeting the needs of those who are unsheltered. Otherwise, we force those who can least afford to do so to move from place to place, searching for housing. The other thing is we can continue to prioritize the preservation of existing and creation of new affordable housing with the focus on those making 30 to 60% of AMI, and with a special emphasis on units serving those at or below 30% of AMI.
And then Becca is second in this cycle.
I say, frankly, the one thing the City Council can do is stop recklessly building all over the city. People who live in Ward 4, I'll speak for myself and my bungalow, we are the last place in the city that it is affordable to own a home with grass. And I think that we need to really look deeply at Minneapolis 2040 plan so that older people don't get priced out of their houses, young families can get into houses, and we don't make it difficult and create newly unhoused people because we make the city too expensive. So I think we need to stop residential rental units in luxury places all over the city, so that will keep Ward 4 affordable. And then we can start looking at other measures that we might need to take, but that's another thing that just needs the brakes.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Philippe Cunningham is third in this cycle.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I think is important is actually that we base our policy making on research. And the most effective way to ensure that housing remains affordable is actually increasing the housing supply itself and having different types of housing diversity. So having different housing types. One of the things that we have to ensure, and something that I've been fighting for, is to make sure that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which a lot of folks like to put money into and then pat themselves on the back about how they're doing so much racial equity, but then none of that money actually is invested in Ward 4 because of the parameters. I've been fighting for years now. That is one of the big areas that we need to focus on to ensure that there's real investment in affordable housing, particularly multifamily housing options in Ward 4. And then the last thing that I've spent a lot of time working on, and I think is really critical in Ward 4, is affordable homeownership opportunities. Since I have been council member, there have been dozens of homes that have been built on vacant lots, and I have been fighting to make sure that they are perpetually affordable, as well as having options to be able to build community wealth. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have the next question is on transportation, and we'll start with Becca Thompson. It's 2 parts. Do you have a preference for the proposed route shift of the Blue Line? And how will you ensure that Ward 4 residents benefit from regional improvements to public transportation?
I'm so excited I get to talk first about this. I used to live in New York City, and as a Minnesota kid who moved to the big city, anybody knows, you're like, oh my gosh, mass transit, because Minnesota just only recently got it. I want to see the Bottineau line go from downtown up West Broadway. It can go into wherever it needs to go after that. But here's the thing, and some people in Ward 4 know, they get so excited about this. I want to bring back the streetcar, but like a high-tech streetcar, and you could have a line up Penn and a line up Lyndale. And that would connect so many people who could then get to the light rail mass transit that they need and get downtown, and we would have more green space, and that would be my dream come true. So and I think that the north side has completely been overlooked for so long. We are bus heavy. Everybody needs a car. My former students all worked all over town. So yeah, I know I'm at a minute, but yeah, I get excited about this. That would be like super high on my list.
All right. Philippe Cunningham, you're up next.
I too am very excited about this question because of my advocacy. Actually, the option for the Blue Line extension going down Lowry is actually an option. And so that is my preference. I would love to see the Blue Line go down Lowry because it really creates an opportunity for Ward 4 to actually be served. If it goes down Broadway, that doesn't even touch Ward 4. I am the Ward 4 council member, so I'm going to fight to make sure that we have connected transit that serves our community here. The benefits that we would be looking at by having that additional Blue Line and access to that transit is catalytic community development. I also fought to make sure that Lowry Avenue was designated as a cultural district so that we are focusing on Northsider owned businesses and really being able to develop along that area. Right now, it is incredibly hard to be able to get investments in our community. By having that, we can intentionally invest in Northsider entrepreneurs to make sure that we are being thoughtful about gentrification and preventing displacement. And just to, oh, I just saw the lips. I read the lips, time's up. All right, thank you. You're muted, Peggy. That's how I read your lips.
Latricia.
Thank you, Peggy. This question seems to be exciting for all of us. So I served on the city's Vision Zero committee for some time because I've always been passionate about transportation. I also was on the Blue Line Commission. I was appointed by Blong Yang, a former Northside City Council member years ago, and served actually for a while. I too am excited about the Blue Line coming down Lowry Avenue. I think that Fourth Ward residents deserve that. We've missed out on so many other things. With the freeway being right there on 94, I think it'd be awesome for us to have that connection right here in the ward. I also am excited about, just reliable transportation as a whole and focusing our investment on transit-dependent neighborhoods like Ward 4. I'm excited about accelerating the Vision Zero investments to eliminate traffic injuries and fatalities and building climate resilience into our street designs. Thank you.
Okay, time's up. Okay, that brings us to our closing point. So Jeff, you want to take over here?
All right. Thank you, co-chair. So it is 7:52 p.m. time check. So candidates have 3 minutes each for their closings. And according to our agenda, the order here is Thompson, Cunningham, Vitaw. And so whenever, do we have anything to queue up?
Am I good to go?
No, yeah, I don't have a timer. Thank you.
Okay, just 1 second, please. And whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks. There were a lot of questions we didn't get to. I was staring at them in the chat. And so I just want to quickly say, because I think I have time in my closing statements, to thank you to Philippe and Latricia for being part of this. This was a fun conversation and I really was looking forward to it. So I have a lot of things that I want to say about this moment and this entire night, but I think what it boils down to is what brings us here and what are we seeking? Ultimately, for me, the question becomes, what can I offer in exchange for you entrusting me with the protections of our community? And I can offer you this, my life journey, what I've learned, what I've seen, who I know, how I've experienced the world as a teacher, as an actor, as a business person, as a mom. My son just poured a bowl of cereal, I could hear it. I could point to my formal education in mathematics, drama, education, business as a place where I achieved skills useful to this collective. Or I could point you to my connection to my family and specifically my son to show you how I'm loyal, work hard, and always get along despite differences. Hashtag my cousin is the president of the park board and we don't always agree. I could mention how I've lived in wealth and in poverty, in warm places and cold, outside and in. But my words are just words, and this screen is an imperfect means to project to you who I am. If you want to know more, I direct you to my website, beccaforthecity.com, or the Facebook or the Instagram. But better yet, if you really want to know, meet me on the Parkway for a run. I'm training for the Twin Cities Marathon, and I'd really love the company. I'll be around the neighborhood, likely wearing a blue shirt. Ultimately, in government and in life, we want people representing us and communing with us that we can relate to, trust, and be proud of. People who give us a sense of peace and confidence. We all want someone representing us to be the human symbol of what it means to live in our community and give voice to best represent us. Only you get to decide who and what that is for 2021. And for my part, I thank you very much for your time and thank you for everyone who put this on. Thanks.
Thank you. And next, Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you. For this DFL endorsement, there is only one candidate running who has a clear record of fighting for Ward 4 and producing results, and that's me. As you heard from Ward 4 constituents in my opening statement video, I have built a responsive, hardworking office staffed by Northside women of color. We work hard every day and resolved thousands of constituent issues faced by our community members. In just 3 years, my leadership has produced unprecedented progress for our community. We have improved basic city services like plowing because I have been unrelentlessly fighting for equitable city services for us. The Upper Harbor Terminal project wouldn't be where it is today without my leadership. The project will now cultivate community wealth by producing jobs with on-site job training in childcare, affordable housing for seniors and families, much needed community spaces, commercial spaces that prioritize Northside entrepreneurs and green space. All of these things will benefit North Minneapolis. This is not the tax base building North Loop expanding project I inherited. We have so many major Ward 4 infrastructure projects in the planning process because of my leadership. The work of transforming public safety has already begun because of my leadership. The Ward 4 benefits of the 2040 plan are being translated into public policy because of my leadership. Now we need to make sure that we have the right leadership there to see this work through. I am the right leader to continue this work and to bring these benefits to fruition for our community. As a council member, my loyalty to Northsiders has been a steadfast value, and I am not beholden to any politician in this city. We cannot afford to go back to trading political favors at the detriment of Northside progress. I can't accept that, and you should not either. As your council member, I have demonstrated competency, integrity, trustworthiness, and hard work day in and day out. I strive for excellence in my service to our community. If you trust me with another term, you can count on those same values leading the work, continuing to lead the work from the Ward 4 City Council office. As a lifelong Democrat, I ask for your support in the DFL endorsement process by being a Cunningham delegate so we can win this thing and continue this transformative work together. Please check out my website at cunninghammpls.org to learn more details on my policies, my vision, and how to get involved with our movement to build a peaceful and prosperous North Minneapolis together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, you are muted.
Sorry, muting in between. And now we have Latricia Vito.
Thank you
3-minute
again.
closing.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you again to our moderators, the Minneapolis DFL, and the Ward 4 committee. I also want to thank the other candidates. I know that public service is more than just a job, but instead a calling on all of us. No matter our differences, we are sacrificing time away from family and friends to be part of this process. But I'd be remiss if I didn't take this final opportunity to really bring this election into focus. We all know the stakes. The last 4 years in Minneapolis have been challenging. Some of our challenges were set upon us by factors far outside of our control, whether we're talking about the impact of the global pandemic or the weight of systemic racism, the legacy of which includes both the increased crime that our neighborhoods face on a daily basis and the discriminatory practices that have been used to police that crime. And yet some of our challenges were of our own making. My life and my mother watching us tonight have taught me that there's no shortcut for hard work. I'm not here to tell you that there are easy solutions to our problems. I know that there is no simple slogan that can fix this, what we face, what my mother faced, and what her folks face. No, we won't be able to fix these problems until we're working together and not caring about who gets the credit and where the blame should be placed. These problems will only be solved when we drop our own egos at the door and focus on what the people care about. They care about communities where we can all feel safe. That's why I support Chief Arredondo and his vision for reform. I know he cares deeply about our community. We need to be working with our chief, not against him. People care about affordable housing and shelter for those who won't have a roof over their heads tonight. That's why I'll fight to make sure the Northsiders gets its fair share of every city dollar put into making our neighborhoods more livable, and that some other parts of our city do their part to shelter people too. People care about economic opportunities and jobs. Northsiders are hardworking, creative, and entrepreneurial. That's why I'll make it my mission to make city government a partner and not an obstacle in growing good paying, attainable jobs in our community. Know that you can count on me to be a champion for us at City Hall. I'm asking for your support, Ward 4 friends. I promise we will get things done and have some fun along the way. You can check out more at Latricia Vital for ward4.org.
Thank you.
Jeff, unmute.
Great. Thank you. That concludes our Ward 4 candidate statements and question and answer for this time slot. I want to applaud Latricia, Philippe, and Becca all for great work with this event. And again, just a reminder, to the extent that you can afford, if you can go to ActBlue and donate to the Minneapolis DFL to help with this 2021 virtual process. And then next for you, again, I want to thank the Ward 4 candidates. We are then going to conclude our meeting tonight with a compiled video of all citywide candidates that will also be available on the Minneapolis DFL site. So the candidates for Mayor, At-Large Park Board, and the Board of Estimate and Taxation will have videos. And I want to thank Vice Chair Brianna, Rose Lee, and my co-chair for Ward 4 Committee, Peggy Clark, and Conrad Zubkowski. Conrad, let us know when you're ready to
I'm ready
roll
right
that
now.
video. So we'll conclude the meeting with watching that video for those who wish to see some of the other citywide candidates.
It's about 20 minutes long, in case.
Hello, my name is Sheila Najad. I use she, her pronouns. This is Ruby, and I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis. I believe that the best solutions come from people who are leading change on the ground. I've been a community organizer and policy analyst for over 10 years. My motto is from the streets to the spreadsheets. I've been leading campaigns at City Hall for safety beyond policing for years. In my work with Reclaim the Block, we've moved millions of dollars that went on to create the Office of Violence Prevention and alternatives to policing, like the mobile mental health response teams. As mayor, I'll fight for real safety solutions that address the core causes of harm and violence in our communities and build true racial justice. I got an early start in cross-cultural movement building by way of my birth. I was born in Fargo to a Persian immigrant father and an Anishinaabe Norwegian-Swedish mother. I moved to Minneapolis 12 years ago to get my master's degree in public policy from the Humphrey School. I built working class solidarity as a restaurant worker and later union member, was board president of the Lyndale Neighborhood Association and lifelong renter. My campaign is called Sheila for the People because I want elected leaders who make it easy for everyday people to be involved in the decisions that affect our lives. From the streets to the spreadsheets, I hope you can join me. Check out more about me and our campaign at SheilaForThePeople.com. Thank you.
I'm Kate Knuth. I'm a mom, a climate strategist, a scholar, a small business owner, and a former state representative. I'm running to be the next mayor of Minneapolis because we need leadership. Growing up, my parents instilled in me a love of community. In our family, a good life is defined by being part of and serving our community. It's a value my husband and I work hard to model with our daughter today. Following my 6 years of legislative service, I led a leadership program in the city of Minnesota. I served as our city's first chief resilience officer and earned my PhD. I now run my own small business and serve on the Bryn Mawr Neighborhood Association board. I know how to use public institutions, like our local government, to help us navigate this era of climate change, racial reckoning, and economic injustice, so every person, Black, Brown, Native, Asian, and white, thrives. I keep an eye on where we need to go while figuring out the step-by-step details about how to get there. Right now, in Minneapolis, we are at a potentially transformative moment that will define us for decades. We can all feel it in the unsteadiness of things, the conflict, the uncertainty. These feelings are not surprising. We're still moving through a global pandemic. We're aching from the trauma of police murdering George Floyd and the unrest and racial reckoning unleashed. The question I ask now is whether we will use this moment to build the Minneapolis we know is possible. I believe with real leadership, we can. I believe that with the right leadership, we can reimagine what our city is capable of being. It means not playing on people's fears about public safety, but rather doing the collaborative work of transitioning us to a public safety system that is racially just and keeps every person in the city safe. Realizing the potential of this moment will take courage from all of us. It takes courage to imagine a future different and so much better than where we are, and it takes courage to actually build that future together. The only way we will develop the courage to imagine and build is by leaning into each other and pulling out what is best in each of us. As I step forward to run for mayor, I ask you to join me, because I know together we can do the hard, joyful work of building our city's future. I hope to earn your support in this convention.
I'm Jacob Fry, Mayor of Minneapolis. Our city is at the center of a national racial reckoning. George Floyd's murder at the hands of police has been recognized by the courts as just that, murder. But that verdict is the most basic measure of accountability that can be afforded to the Black community, one that's been historically denied. And these cycles of tragedy and trauma aren't going to interrupt themselves. We've been doing the hard work. Our administration has invested more than any in city history to build inclusive community safety systems and support violence prevention. We've implemented progressive policies that promote accountability and transparency in the police department and worked alongside the community to rebuild trust. But we shortchange this conversation if we limit it to community safety and policing. We've done big things over the last 3 years, from record-setting investments in affordable housing production and preservation to building new programs like Stable Homes, Stable Schools, which has effectively served thousands of public school children, over 90% of whom are BIPOC, and designing intentional vehicles like cultural districts and the Commercial Property Development Fund for targeted investments in BIPOC neighborhoods. We've also navigated unprecedented challenges together, from a global pandemic to an economic downturn to the murder of George Floyd. We've taken up difficult conversations and done the hard work, and we're only getting started. So let's have that dialogue. Let's chart a course, but let's not trade this opportunity for transformational change for the theoretical. Black residents are eyeing this moment with well-earned skepticism, and so we must be specific about the changes we want to see, dedicating ourselves to serious policymaking and dislodging objects previously considered immovable. Whatever the consequence or the audience, you have my word. I'll tell you the truth. I won't minimize the challenges to achieving progress. I'll continue being a principled leader, guiding this city to not just better times, but a fundamentally more just Minneapolis. Thank you, and I ask for your support.
In Minneapolis, I'm Jarrell Perry, lifetime resident of the Twin Cities, proud father of two beautiful little girls, whose future tomorrow depends on the work that we are able to do today. Which brings us to the moment we are currently living through, the most pivotal moment in our city's 171-year history, starting with COVID-19. We're still walking around with masks in every pocket on our jeans and every zipper in our purses. We're washing and sanitizing our hands now more than we ever have before. Social distancing, 6 feet down to 3 feet in some places. What more can we do? We can make sure that vaccinations are ready, available to every Minneapolis resident that's willing to take one. We can make sure our children are back in school full time with full functioning before and after school programming, as well as our recreation centers. And we can make sure that everybody gets back to work. We can do this, you guys. We can also do police reform by first mandating that deadly force only be used against deadly force. We can go into crime prevention, including crime and violence committed by individuals with firearms. And we can implement youth outreach and engagement programs and also bring them good paying jobs. We can eradicate hunger and homelessness in Minneapolis through the Housing First program and get our brothers and sisters off the street by building more public housing structures with income capped at 30% to pay rent. No more than 30% going towards rent. We can also eradicate application fees and the need for credit checks for anything outside of rental history. Reconciliation can come through the justice resolution, which will make much needed investments in communities across our city. And at the same time, it will move us closer to opening the intersection at 30th in Chicago, affectionately known as George Floyd Square. We can also do racial reconciliation through community engagement, using churches and faith leaders to bring their different congregations together to fellowship so we can see just how similar we are, starting with our humanity. I did not enter this race because I'm the most educated or hold the most pedigrees. I entered it because I feel like we are in desperate need of leadership that is not only willing to say the right words, but that's willing to take the right actions. In my experience, I think I am more able than do that for you. Thank you, and I look forward to serving you, Minneapolis. Love your neighbor as yourself. God bless.
I believe that better parks are possible, and we can make these critical community spaces more people-focused, equitable, and inclusive for everyone. Hi, I'm Tom Olson, and I'm running for Park Board Commissioner at Large. I have several years of experience working in government and politics throughout the state, including at the Attorney General's office, the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, the Minneapolis Community Environmental Advisory Commission, and at the Minnesota House DFL, where I currently work as a communications specialist. In my current role, I work with several legislators and the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus, which has ingrained a racial equity approach into everything I do. Each of these experiences has taught me how to build bridges and work with folks from diverse backgrounds and across the political spectrum. I understand that many of the issues we deal with at the Park Board are nuanced and require the consideration of multiple viewpoints. As an at-large commissioner, I will represent every community and take into consideration the needs and desires of everyone. Yet Minneapolis is home to some of the worst racial disparities and segregation in the nation, and I see it as my job to intentionally uplift and empower the voices of our Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. There's so much we can do to uplift our community spaces, open parkways to pedestrians, empower our youth voices, and to treat our unhoused neighbors with dignity and respect. There's more to discuss, but know that my moral philosophy centered on equity, community, and the environment will guide my decisions as your commissioner. I look forward to working with and learning from you all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Londell French, Minneapolis Park Commissioner. I'm asking for your endorsement for re-election to the Minneapolis Park Board. In the past few years, our parks have become more essential to the fabric of Minneapolis. With the COVID pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, and the uprising that followed, our parks have been everything. As we spent more time outside to social distance, to heal, to gather, to feed people, and distribute mutual aid to our communities, we faced more complex issues and challenges than I could have ever imagined when I was first elected 3 years ago. I'm asking for your vote so I can continue to do this work. Work like opening our first full service community school, partnering with Minneapolis Public Schools to offer wraparound services to get our families the resources that they need. Like listening and working with communities to make the nation's first memorial honoring survivors of sexual violence. Work like changing the name of our parkways to better honor the indigenous communities whose land we all live on. I'm proud to be your Minneapolis Park Commissioner. Serving has been the greatest responsibility of my life, and I take it very seriously. I'm asking for your support to continue being your at-large Park Commissioner. Thank you.
Our park system began 137 years ago. This is a legacy. I, Meg Forney, am passionate about the long view of our future legacy. The long view is why I am seeking re-election for one of your citywide park commissioners. The decisions we make today will impact our future generations. I will advocate for these long views. 1, to grow Minneapolis green space to support climate and environmental resiliency. Parks are the best tool for enhancing air and water quality and mitigating heat islands. Increasing vegetation is our best line of defense. 2, to invest in programming for youth by fostering youth employment that creates life skills to acquire sustainable jobs, to develop expertise in stewardship for our environment, and to prevent youth violence through building relationships. 3, to continue to cut barriers for equitable park access for all Minneapolis residents and families. In my short 2 terms, we have increased from 94% to 98% that every resident is within a 10-minute walk of a park. Now that the entire city has been park master planned, policies and practices can be enacted for long-term development and improvements. Lastly, to guide our parks in a financially sustainable manner through establishing empirical, equity-driven data matrix and diversifying our funding stream. Please visit my website to learn more about my campaign at megforney.org. I ask for your support for this legacy for our future generations.
Hello, Minneapolis DFLers. Steve Brandt here, candidate for the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I'd like to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm running. I came to Minneapolis as a college freshman. I'm a little older than that now, but my love for the city has grown and I've put down roots here. This is the house where Linda and I have lived for the past 44 years and raised 2 sons. Minneapolis is going through some hard times right now, but I'm running because I want to contribute to helping this city recover. I also want to leave my 7-year-old granddaughter an even better city. I honestly believe that I'm the best qualified candidate for the Board of Estimate, the board that sets the annual limit on property tax increases. It also authorizes borrowing for infrastructure projects like street and sewer repairs. In my 40 years as a reporter, I did my own research, analyzed the facts I gathered, and presented my conclusions. That's what I intend to do as your voice on the Board of Estimate. I'm running because I know the city. As a reporter, I immersed myself in all 81 neighborhoods and got to know their residents. I know this city from many different perspectives, and I care for all residents. I'm running because I know city finances. I've read the city's budget from cover to cover, and I've analyzed the debates that shaped it. I've also served since 2017 on the city's capital budgeting task force. I'm the only candidate who has articulated a detailed approach to how I'd go about setting property taxes, one that starts with you before considering other factors. I'm asking you to run for city convention delegate and to vote to endorse me for the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Vote experience. Vote Steve Brandt.
Hello, caucus goers and fellow DFLers. I'm Krista Mosing, and I'm the Stonewall DFL endorsed candidate for the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Thank you for taking the time to get involved, caucus, and build support for the kind of city you want Minneapolis to be. I have nearly a decade of experience analyzing and explaining public utility budgets. I will use that experience and knowledge to serve on the BET. My work will also be informed by my perspective as a trans woman and as someone with experience of childhood poverty. I grew up in subsidized housing, and I'm here today because my community invested in me. City budgets are how we express our values as a community. As a BET member, I will support your efforts to build the city we want to live in. I will work to make the policies that you support possible. I live in one of the many Minneapolis neighborhoods with a history of redlining and disinvestment. Every day, these neighborhoods bear the consequences of our city's public safety failures, and in 2020, they bore most of the catastrophic destruction precipitated by the murder of George Floyd. I will support the work to end this city's legacy of neglect and harm for these neighborhoods and the people who live and work in them. I earned Stonewall's endorsement for this race because I'm committed to the values of equity and inclusion embraced by our community. I will examine every act of the BET through this lens. As a BET member, I will amplify the voices of those who have historically been excluded or marginalized by city budgeting processes. My campaign is already building greater understanding of the BET and what it can do for the city. To learn more about me, my campaign, and about the BET, please visit my website at krista4.bet. There's an email Krista link if you want to contact me directly. Once again, I appreciate your time and involvement in this process. My name is Krista Mosing, and I ask humbly for your support and your endorsement to serve on the BET. Thank you.
Several days a week, I wake up at 4 a.m. It's a little before 5, and I'm going to work. I've been doing this line of work for the last 13 years, working in a grocery store. It's been scary this last year, especially as a frontline worker during a pandemic and getting an early case of COVID. The pandemic has impacted my family on a financial level. My husband recently lost his job in March. My mom, a retired elementary school teacher, needed support as well. I know what it's like to be a homeowner and a renter in Minneapolis. This is one of the reasons I'm running. I know that people are struggling right now. I can relate. We need to have a tax ban now that is cognizant of the fact that people are struggling and having a hard time paying rent or paying their property tax. The other element of why I'm running is to protect social services. We have to be careful to not cut taxes too much so we don't cut funding for our social programs. Social services are going to be essential to keeping our city going. Our city is in a crisis. I literally run to crises. The Minnesota Senate passed a resolution honoring me for saving a person's life. I pulled a person out of a burning car on Highway 94. This is me, an everyday working class Minneapolitan. I see the tax plan, how it affects people's lives, and not as a number. Know that if you've struggled during this pandemic or known somebody who has struggled, know that I'll be fighting for all of us. Please join the campaign at www.az4bet.com. Thank you.
Not sure. I think there was an instruction that he gave us about exiting after the video was done to stop the streaming.
Well, Conrad's the host now, right?
Is there anything else that you'd like to share tonight?
Thank you, Conrad.
I was just
As
wondering,
always.
do you know how many people participated can you tell from the streaming?
Yeah, I'll tell you after I close the streaming.
Okay.
Okay.